Okay, so let's take a look at multiplying and dividing fractions. So multiplying 2 over 3 times 4 over 5. Notice I always do perfect fractions. I'm never going to do little tiny half fractions that try and think that you save space when you're actually going to waste way more paper in the long run writing messy. Use nice, clean, easy fractions. Be able to easily read your notes. It's going to be very helpful. So, as you can see in the notes, it explains it in English. We simply multiply the tops and multiply the bottoms. Notice I rewrite the question a lot of the times. Makes it a little bit simpler to read in the notes. Either way, multiply the tops. 2 times 4 is 8. 3 times 5 is 15. And then I think, can I simplify my answer like in the last section? What's the greatest common factor between 8 and 15? Well, it's 1. So we can't simplify it all. So I'm going to circle my answer. Then on the calculator, I can say 2 divided by 3 times 4 divided by 5. And I get 0.53. And they're both the same. So I'm going to say check mark. Checking your answer every single question you ever do. I will stress this so often. Not sometimes, not when your teacher asks you to, not when you want to, all the time. Okay, so let's take a look at another multiplying fractions. So let's take a look at 2 times 3 over 5. Notice the 2 is not in the middle. Notice it's not halfway in between, up and above. It's on the top. Just like the 3 is on the top and just like 5 is on the bottom. So, what do I know? Well, I know that every number is over 1. So I can put the 2 over 1. This is very helpful. If you're ever getting confused and you think, well, that's not a full fraction. Yes, it is. It always is. And always put that number down below if necessary, if that helps. So again, reading the English instructions, we're simply going to multiply the tops. 2 times 3 is 6. And we're going to multiply the bottoms. 1 times 5 is 5. And we get 6 over 5. Sure, the top is bigger, and we're going to learn how to go back and forth between those two. But 2 times 3 divided by 5 is equal to 1.2, and 6 divided by 5 is also 1.2, so check mark. As you can see off to the right in the notes, I do a little bit of stuff with letters to kind of help you understand if you like something like that, but if you like the numbers, all the same. Okay, so another example of multiplying fractions. However, we are going to learn a process called cross-canceling. So let's take 1 over 2 times 2 over 3. Now, again, we could do it the old way. So we're simply just going to multiply the tops. 1 times 2 is 2. And we're going to multiply the bottoms. 2 times 3 is 6. Now, I could circle that answer, but I'd recognize that the greatest common factor between 2 and 6 is 2, so I can divide the top and bottom by 2. And 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 6 divided by 2 is 3. And I can circle my answer. And on the calculator, I can do 1 divided by 2 times 2 divided by 3. And I can get 0.3 repeater, and 1 divided by 3 is also 0.3 repeater. So I can say check mark. Now, there must be a better way. Why would I do something where I have to do another step? Well, we can simplify while we're at it. So, I'm going to rewrite this question. 1 divided by 2 times 2 divided by 3. Well, I'm going to take this question, and I'm going to propose it way off to the right. 1 over 2 times 2 over 3. Well, we know that we're multiplying the tops and multiplying the bottoms. Now, consider the fact that 1 times 2 on the top is the same as 2 times 1. So couldn't I switch the tops? Sure, why not? So I'm going to switch the tops. 2 over 2 times 1 over 2. Simply just switching the tops. 1 times 2 is 2. 2 times 1 is 2. That's okay. Now, looking at that first fraction, 2 divided by 2 is 1. I can simplify the top. I can divide the top and bottom by 2. And 2 divided by 2 is 1. And 2 divided by 2 is 1. That 1 on the top, a little bit clearer. And then I can simply multiply the tops. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times, excuse me, that should be a 3 on the bottom. And 1 times 3 is 3. The same as we got above. Check mark. Now, instead of switching the tops, why don't I just cross cancel? Not to get confused with cross multiplication or so many other very simple mathematical operations that look very similar. And I can simply cross off the 2 on the top and the bottom, and I can divide the top by 2. And 2 divided by 2 is 1. And again, 2 divided by 2 is 1. And then I can just multiply the tops. 1 times 1 is 1. And 1 times 3 is 3. And I get 1/3. Cross canceling. A very useful step, especially in higher level math. So let's see cross canceling again. So let's take 1 over 4 and multiply that by 2 over 3. Well, I can recognize that 2 over 4, well, I can divide the top and bottom by 2. So if I divide the top, 2 divided by 2 is 1. 4 divided by 2 is 2. Then I can simply multiply. 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times 3 is 6. I can circle my answer. And then I can check on the calculator. 1 divided by 4 times 2 divided by 3 is 0.16 repeater. And 1 divided by 6 is also 0.16 repeater. Sometimes it's helpful to write that. Equals 0.16 repeater. They are all equal to that, so check mark. So all examples of multiplying fractions using cross-canceling whenever we can. So I'm just going to shrink this up a bit. Hopefully you're writing a little bit smaller than I am in your graph paper. And now let's go on to dividing fractions. So let's take 1 divided by 2 divided by 4 over 7. And as you can see in the notes, I've rewritten the question. Notice I do a slash through my 7s so they don't look like 4s or 9s or 1s. So in the notes, I'm going to read the English instruction, flip the second fraction, change to multiplication. So let's do that. We have 1 divided by 2 times 7 over 4. Simply taking the second fraction and flipping it over and changing the middle sign from division to multiplication. Now we can simply do the same instructions that we did above. Multiply the tops, multiply the bottoms. 1 times 7 is 7. 2 times 4 is 8. And I'm going to circle my answer. Now, this is going to be a little bit more difficult to type into your calculator because most standard calculators will not understand 1 divided by 2 divided by 4 over 7. In order to type this in the calculator, you're going to have to put brackets around the 1 over 2 divided by brackets around the 4 over 7. And we'll get the same 7 over 8 or the decimal 0.875. Either way, check mark. And lots of times I just put little boxes around stuff off to the right and maybe a little note like calculator, calc, exclamation mark, etc. So dividing fractions, just that simple. Flip the second fraction and change to multiplication. You could have multiple divided by. And we simply flip the fraction and change the sign in front of it. Okay, so let's take a look at a couple more examples. So I'm going to do 1 over 2 over 4 over 7. Now we have to be very clear as to which is the big over and which is the little over. Now, wouldn't you agree that I can simply call this a division statement? Turning the big over into a tiny little divided by sign. And then just follow the steps from above. 1 over 2 times, flip the 7 fraction and change to multiply. And again, we're going to get 7 over 8. Now, I actually like a quicker way than that. And I like to just say 1 over 2 over 4 over 7. But instead of writing the division statement, I just like to flip and multiply right where it is. And I'm going to put a box around that because it's exactly the same as what we did off to the left. It's just a little bit of a better trick. Okay. A couple more interesting little examples. Sorry about that. So let's say we have 3 big over 5 over 7. Now, keep in mind, I am going to do the instruction that I just showed. Flipping and changing right to multiplication. So, because we're dividing by 5 over 7, we can simply times by 7 over 5. And what's the 3 over? Well, it's over 1. And I can simply multiply the tops. 3 times 7 is 21. And 1 times 5 is 5. And we get 21 over 5. I'm going to circle my answer. I'm going to check my answer on the calculator. Remember, if you're going to be typing these things into the calculator, you need to make sure that you put brackets around the top and brackets around the bottom. So 3 with brackets around it divided by open bracket, 5 divided by 7 is 4.2. 21 over 5 is also 4.2. So check mark. Again, making sure that we're very careful as to which one is the big over versus which one is the small over. I'm just going to shrink that up a little bit. And let's do one more question. So now let's do 2 over 3 big over 5. Well, on the bottom, the 5 is over 1. And I'm going to put brackets around the fraction on the bottom. And because I'm dividing, I could write a division statement. I'm going to go straight to the multiplication statement. And because I'm dividing by 5 over 1, I can multiply by 1 over 5. And then if I multiply the tops, 2 times 1 is 2. And 3 times 5 is 15. And again, if I want to type that in my calculator, I need to make sure I put brackets around the top and brackets around the bottom. If I do that, open bracket, 2 divided by 3, close bracket, divided by open bracket, 5, or 5 divided by 1, close bracket, is 0.13 repeater. And 2 divided by 15 is also 0.13 repeater. So check mark. And again, in the notes off to the right, you can see a whole bunch of math done with letters, if you prefer letters to numbers, which is very nice to see sometimes because letters work all the time and numbers work only in their specific examples. Either way, this is multiplying, sometimes using the method cross-canceling, and dividing fractions. So multiplying and dividing fractions. So we've seen simplifying and expanding fractions. We've now seen multiplying and dividing fractions. Obviously, just addition, subtraction, multiplication. What comes next? Obviously, addition and subtraction. So now we're going to look at adding and subtracting fractions.